The answer to the Badgers' biggest problem might just be a guy named Colton Joseph, quarterback, old DU. Go get him. If you're going to spend money, go get somebody in that tier.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Thank you for making this the biggest sports podcast network there is. Appreciate the support for that. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Today's episode, we are getting some of your thoughts, questions, concerns from the YouTube channel. We are talking about a new Badgers commit, a really speedy, interesting receiver committed to the Badgers with a big-time offer list. He's interesting. I like him. We're going to put his film up. But first, let's talk quarterback. What does this team need? Because ultimately, none of this matters. Ultimately, if you don't fix quarterback, nothing matters. It doesn't matter what you do at receiver, offensive line, defensive line. What you do with schedules, it doesn't matter what you do with the coaching staff. If you're going to fire somebody, hire somebody. If you're going to bring in 17 new assistants, special analysts like Georgia and Alabama have been doing for years. None of that matters if you don't fix quarterback. None of it matters. You got to fix quarterback. For too many years of my life, the Badgers have lived through substandard to, quite frankly, horrific quarterback play. You have to fix it this offseason, period. If you're going to go and spend money, and if you're going to be a top third of the Big Ten NIL team, which is what you've said, you put that out there. That wasn't the fans that said that. That is what has been talked about. And maybe that was Ted Kellner putting words into the administration's mouths. I don't know, but you have to fix quarterback. So what do you do to do it? How many do you need? Who do you target? I'm telling you right now, the guy I go after is Colton Joseph. Old Dominion quarterback, a true sophomore. Colton Joseph, 6'2", 200 pounds. Runs the ball really well. Last year threw for 2,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 10 picks. Also ran for 1,000 yards with 13 touchdowns. That's who you go get. You go target Colton Joseph, especially if you're going to keep a Jeff Grimes. You need a quarterback like this. You need a mobile guy. He ran for 1,000 yards, ran for 168 against Indiana, against that Indiana defense that bottled up just about everybody in the country. This is the guy you get, and you become a 10, 11 win Big Ten team because your quarterback can win games for you. And he's going to cost $2.5 million. I'm just throwing a number out there, but it's going to be like that. That's what it's going to cost. Go get a Colton Joseph. He's my number one guy. Last year, if you've been listening to this channel for a long time, you remember my number one guy in the portal was Fernando Mendoza. I said, this is the guy. I love him at Cal. Listen, I get plenty wrong, but man, I nailed that take. I did a video on it. It's still up. Like, I don't take any videos down. All the receipts are there, including the ones where I was horrifically wrong and called Gus Yalden he's gonna be great for the Badgers in the post. You know, the good and the bad are both up there forever in perpetuity on YouTube. But last year it was Fernando Mendoza for me. That was my number one guy. This year it's Colton Joseph. And you couldn't afford Fernando Mendoza in that last year. You couldn't do it. And I know the staff was interested in him. You couldn't afford him. You can now theoretically afford a Colton Joseph. This is the type of guy you go and get. This is the type of guy that will bring receivers with them. He'll cover up the offensive line. He makes the running game work. You need a dude at quarterback. We can no longer just have, all due respect, we can no longer just have a Joel Stave. And we haven't even had that in the last couple of years. We would have killed for a Joel Stave the last couple of years. But you need a dude. You need a guy. You need a mobile player. You need a veteran. You need a big player. This guy's 6'2", 200 pounds. He is my portal quarterback crush. You go get Colton Joseph. You open up the checkbook and you say, we will take whatever offer you get and we'll add $1. Whatever offer you get, we'll add 5%, 10%. What is it going to take? And maybe ultimately he's a California kid originally. That's where he grew up. Maybe he doesn't want to play in the Midwest, whatever. But you make him say no, and you make him say no not because of money. If you're going to overpay in this portal and there's going to be spots where you need to, you overpay at quarterback. It's like if you're going to overpay for a house, overpay for a great location. Don't overpay for a swimming pool. Overpay for something that is really going to pay dividends, and it's quarterback. So overpay. If it costs $3 million, it costs $3 million. If it costs $3.5 million, it costs $3.5 million. If it means you don't get another corner, so be it. If it means you don't get another defensive lineman, so be it. If it's going to cost $3.5 million and you have to give them naming rights to Lake Monona, Do it. Whatever. Call it Colton Joseph Lake from now on. Whatever it takes, you have to get a quarterback in this room. In the comments section here, or in the show kind of topics, I put the Colton Joseph tier, because there's a tier of quarterbacks, and maybe you don't get Colton Joseph, maybe you don't get that guy, but you got to get a quarterback in that tier. So that's a Lenore Sellers type if he hits the portal. South Carolina's quarterback. Drew Mestmaker out of North Texas, who's probably going to follow his coach, but that's another player who is going to get big money this season. You got to shop in that tier. You can't go down to the discount bargain bin. You got to be at the elite grocery store, the best ingredients at quarterback. You got to shop in that tier. And if it's Colton Joseph, amazing. I would be stoked for that. Again, I think he's also an incredible fit for what Jeff Grimes wants to do. I think Jeff Grimes is going to be here next year. You got to get a mobile quarterback that can take some hits. Jeff Grimes is going to run his quarterback. He's going to run him more than I think he probably should. I've talked about this, but that's going to be a part of his offense. So go get a guy who's 200 plus pounds, who's built the right way, who can take some hits, who ran for 1,000 yards last year. And if you get a Colton Joseph, you transform everything. Everything becomes more exciting, and you have optimism, and you have a real guy. You have a real player that you can build some optimism around. Yeah, you got to go get somebody in that tier, though. So a couple other players here. There's Drew Messmaker. Again, I talked about North Texas's quarterback. He's a guy that will throw it 30 to 35 times. He'll punish single high. He's a really, really good thrower. Not as mobile as Colton Joseph, which is, again, why I like Colton Joseph. But that would be another big-time get if you can get North Texas's kid. Lenore Sellers, listen, if he hits the portal, a lot of people think he will. That's another one where you got to be willing to spend top dollar and make him say no. And he's at South Carolina. I know Tennessee needs a quarterback. Florida State might. Florida might. I mean, there's going to be a lot of options for these players. But it is what it is. You can't bargain your way out of the quarterback spot. You got to spend the money. And let's look at this quarterback spot. And we'll get some comments in here as well. I'm really excited about today's show. Yeah. Rampage says Colton is a dog. Old Dominion quarterback. Dude, I love him. Oh, Sam Levitt. That's another good one. Chris Arneson, Sam Levitt. Yeah, he's in the Colton Joseph tier. You got to go to the Colton Joseph tier this offseason. And there's not going to be a ton of quarterbacks there, but if you're willing to open up the checkbook, if you're willing to open up the checkbook, you got to go get one of those guys. You cannot come away from this offseason with another Tyler Van Dyke. You cannot. And even if that means you sacrifice other spots, you got to do it. You have to. Listen, I know you can't make somebody sign with you, but the reason people sign with you or don't sign with you cannot be because of money. It has to be because, no, we don't trust the scheme, or I hate the snow, or my cousin's grandfather grew up a UCLA fan. Whatever it is, it can't be because of money this offseason that you don't get the quarterback you need. Let's look at this quarterback room. How many quarterbacks do you need? I think you need 2 and maybe 3. Let's just look at this quarterback room. And by the way, none of this to me is an anti-Carter Smith thing. I really hope Carter Smith stays because you got to develop talent. But Luke Fickell's on the hot seat. He's going to go out and get a ready-made quarterback. He has to. And I hope to goodness gracious Carter Smith sticks around, because you got to develop a guy. I love his moxie. I like the intangibles, but he's not going to be the starter next year. I would be stunned. And again, it's not a Carter Smith thing. It's also not a Ryan Hopkins thing, who's a recruit coming in. Neither of those guys are going to be starters because they're going to go out and pay big money for a quarterback, I hope, because they need to get an established guy and then let those young players develop. So you look at this quarterback room, Badger fans, boys and girls, and you have Billy Edwards, who isn't going to be here. You have Daniel O'Neal coming off a major injury. Who knows what the future is there? Then you have Carter Smith, right, who didn't seize the job this year, and you have Ryan Hopkins. That's your quarterback room. Tell me we don't need 3 guys. Honestly, tell me you don't need 3 guys in this room. I think you need a big money starter. Then you need a veteran. I'm going to say Hunter Simmons-ish type. I mean, I know that didn't go great, but you need a veteran from a lower level who's thrown a lot of passes and can be a steady guy. You need that, and you probably need another. You can't go into next year with less than 5 quarterbacks. You probably need 3 this offseason. But again, one of them has to be, I'm going to call it the Colton Joseph tier. One of them has to be in the Colton Joseph tier. You cannot go bargain shopping this offseason at quarterback. Go get Colton Joseph. That would be I'll drink so much varsity ale to make that happen. Y'all, you won't see me for a week. I'll be on a a 1-week Varsity Ale hangover. How much Varsity Ale would I need to drink to get to that level of drunk? I will be there, though, if it means getting Colton Joseph. Let's take a break here. We got to talk about a new recruit coming into the Badgers, 3-star receiver, high 3-star receiver with an Auburn offer, Georgia offer. I like him. He's explosive and fast. Let's talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. Then we got your comments coming up next. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Omaha Steaks. And listen, if it is that time of the season where you're trying to find gifts, some people are hard to shop for. Actually, someone in my really close inner circle, I'm like racking my brain to find a gift, and I'm struggling. I might just get that person Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to friends or family, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door. Take the stress out of it. And honestly, take the risk out of them not liking what you get them. They're going to love Omaha Steaks. And if they don't deserve to be in your circle. You can cut that person out of your life and put them on an ice floe, push them off into the Arctic. That person is not, maybe I shouldn't say that, but Omaha Steaks is incredible. Right now, Omaha Steaks is the best gift. The variety is incredible. Tender steaks, burgers, side dishes, desserts. They got you covered, whatever you're looking for, to make that hosting or weekend cooking easier. And it's something great for yourself, too. If you just want to gift yourself something, this has been a hard year. Get yourself something a little nice this season. I give you permission. Go over to Omaha Steaks to do that. It's the kind of gift that brings people together. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use promo code college at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com. Promo code college. Terms do apply. See site for details. All right, let's jump into this. Let's talk a new commit. We are definitely at that point of the year where things happen really quickly. The Badgers a couple days ago just picked up a defensive line commit. He's already flipped to Kansas. I already did a show on him. So it's happening quickly, but the Badgers pick up Keyshawn Tabatu, 2026 receiver out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, 5'11", 170-pound receiver, high 3-star composite. Listen to this offer list. They flipped him from Vanderbilt, but he had an offer from Arkansas. He very recently, I don't even think this is listed on all of his offer lists, but I had somebody reach out to me and said, hey, this is a kid Miami's after. Miami recently offered him. Kentucky, Georgia, Tennessee. This is a 4-star offer list. Now, not all offers are created equally, right? He lists the Georgia offer. What does that mean? Does it mean Georgia was interested? But this is a really big time offer list for a kid from the South, a lot of SEC schools. Let's put the film up. Talk a little bit about what we like here, what we see. Let's put the film up. Let's hit play. I think the first thing you see, and let me pull up my notes on the side over here, you see just speed, right? This is a 10,800 meter kid, 10,700 meter kid. And I don't think the level of competition where he's playing in this area of Tennessee is great, but he just pulls away. The speed is absolutely legit here. I like the sudden start, or I like the stop-start ability in the open space. He's pretty twitched up. Not a big frame. I think there is going to be a question. Is this a slot receiver? Is this a outside guy? He's bigger than a Kion Barry Johnson. He doesn't have ideal size on the outside. So probably someone you can play in a couple different spots. But again, the speed plays, I like the open field ability. His start and stop and acceleration is pretty elite. And I think that bears out in his track times. You see it here in kind of a middle screen. Watch north-south, boom. That's one of the big things with receivers. He doesn't really dance. He finds a seam and he goes north and south. That north and south explosion is very evident in his film. I think this is a guy you can see special teams, slot receiver, maybe outside receiver. I'm not sure. He's not tiny. He's 5'11", 6 foot. He's got pretty long arms, so maybe he's an outside guy. But he might just be a weapon. He might be a receiver screen, which you actually see right here. You see a middle receiver screen. And again, you just see the ability to get north and south with that burst. He might be we're going to get him on a smoke screen, receiver reverse, get him on special teams, maybe wildcat snaps. I think he's a guy you just get the ball to. Let him get in space and let him cook. It's a big deal for this receiver room, who just lost Jaden Petit, who, earlier in the season had Tayshaun Bardo, and then that was kind of a mutual thing, but you lost him. This room needs bodies. Ideally, they would like another one. I know Zachary Washington is a guy they're kicking the tires on. That was a longtime Badgers target. But I like this pickup for a late in the cycle type of a guy with this offer list. You got to give the staff credit for this one. Speed kills. He's a 10-7, 10-8 guy, and it plays out on film. The speed checks out on film. He just pulls away easily from angles. So, and here you see that returnability. So I think he's a special teams guy as well, potentially. All right, let's get some of your comments in here. And then I want to talk about some of the needs this team has on the offensive side in the portal. Once I fix this, let's see. How do I get myself off this giant screen here? There we go. Let's get some of your comments here. Again, I think that's a big get for the Badgers. Rampage says, I want DJ Legway. Legway is a name that I've heard actually kind of dropped, but I don't know if I want Legway. I don't trust him. I don't trust him to read defenses. Smo says Sellers. We never pony up. Yeah, you got to pony up to get him, but Sellers would be an unbelievable get. Let's keep going here. Tyler says, I really don't know if Fickle's willing to bet on a quarterback moving up in competition level again. It's possible, but they're going to get somebody. They're absolutely going to go get somebody. So, and you look at some of the quarterbacks that have moved up. It almost feels like everything's an individual test case. There are definitely quarterbacks, like Cam Ward, that moved up in competition a couple times and obviously did incredible. And there's quarterbacks that go from one Power 4 place to another and they fizzle out, right? So it feels like each player is its own individual test case on that, but I'd be curious to see where they go. I think either way, they got to spend money. How many receivers do they need? So we talked quarterback. I said they need 2 or 3. Look at the quarterback or the receiver depth chart here. We just talked about a receiver in the 2026 class that popped. This receiver depth chart, guys, it's Eugene Hilton Jr., who was a freshman last year, who we've already heard some smoke might be looking around. That's been out there. Then you have Kyamberry Johnson, who hasn't been able to get on the field. Chris Brooks Jr., who, let's be honest, Chris Brooks Jr. at his best is probably a 3. That's at like his best. Then you have Joe Griffin, who transferred in a year ago, hasn't really done anything yet. You need 4 receivers in the portal? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Do you need 4 receivers in the portal? Tyler says, is Kyamberry Johnson going to turn into anything? I don't know. He's just tiny. And I said that when I was watching in Platteville. He's really quick. He's got good ball skills, but I always was kind of, I am never going to write somebody off. He's young, but he's so small. I think if anything, he's a slot guy. You can find slot guys. That doesn't mean they're not important and they're not valuable. He has ball skills, but he's just tiny. Slim says, there's no way to know how many receivers we need until we know who's leaving. I agree, but let's say nobody else leaves. You still need like 3 or 4, right? Because if nobody else leaves, your depth chart next year, you're losing Vinny, you're losing Ballard, you're losing Dekel Crowdis and Tyrell Henry. Your receiver depth chart next year is Eugene Hilton Jr., Joseph Griffin with Kyamberry Johnson and Chris Brooks Jr. backing them up. And that's again, assuming nobody else leaves. You need 4 receivers, I think. Yes, Darb says you need 4 at least. I think you need at least 2 starters, right? Especially if Eugene Hilton Jr. leaves and you need depth. That feels like a 4-man portal class that you almost need to fill. Now, potentially, maybe you get another player in the 26th class. Maybe one of these guys, LeGray or the player they got today, can play as true freshmen. But that's tough. I think you need 4 receivers in the portal. And then let's go to running backs. How many running backs do you need? Again, we're just kind of focusing on offensive skill right here. You look at running backs, I'd be surprised if both Darian Dupree and Dylan Jones are back next year. We got to see with Gideon Atuka coming off that really scary injury, where is he going to be at? Cade Yakimelli's moving on. Even if Amari Latimer signs in the 26th class, I think he's going to play as a freshman, and you have Wiggins as well in the 26th class. So you have 2 freshmen coming in who are both really well thought of. You still need 2 running backs, right? You need at least 2, I would think. Dylan Jones, if he comes back, is coming off an injury. Darian Dupree wasn't overly impressive this year. Gideon Atuka would be coming off an injury. I don't think all 3 of those guys are back. And you don't want to count completely on true freshmen. Jackson Akers gone as well. I think you need 2 or 3 running backs, 4 receivers, 2 quarterbacks. I mean, right there. What is that? I mean, that's a lot of this. This is going to be an incredibly active portal season. Yeah, Rampage, Nick Marsh would be nuts. The Michigan State receiver, he would be absolutely nuts. Dominic says, I love him as a prospect. My Lord Lester, was Hilton to Indiana a joke? I don't know. That smoke is definitely out there. Obviously, that's where he's from. He's from that area, and they've been able to show proof of concept, passing the ball, receivers there. They're going to have to work to hang on to people. And Brian Smith came on the other day and talked about retention. Retention is going to be one of the biggest things the Badgers have to do. Let's keep going here. Other thoughts. My Lord Lester says we need every position on offense. I don't think we actually need tight ends. I was going through this, and I'm going to do like probably a position by position breakdown, but I actually like our tight end group. I like Steck. You have Jackson McGowan coming back. I think Severs is going to sign with them. I really like Emmett Bork, the freshman last year. He kind of looks like a caveman that discovered football. I'm telling you, he's wired a little differently. He's got a huge frame. I think they're okay at tight end. I think you have Tucker Ashcraft, Steck, Bork. I like Severs coming in. Maybe you get a depth guy. I think they're okay at tight end. But aside from that, yeah, you need offensive line. You need receiver, running back, quarterback. Badgerman says maybe he's a Tyrell Henry type. Slim says they're signing this guy because Hilton and Artrech are likely leaving. I don't think it's connected. They wanted 3 receivers in this 2026 class. I think, and even now they're a little short. They're looking for another, I think. So they wanted 3. I don't think it has anything to do with Treach or Hilton. Zach Bart's, good friend of the show, says if we can flip a Zach Washington for a big body type, this becomes a solid receiver class. I love Washington. I was always on board with Washington. I was frustrated when they kind of parted ways. I thought you should have got him anyway. You can't have too many good receivers at Wisconsin. Don't shut down a recruitment because you think you're full, quote unquote, especially in today's era of college football. You're never full because players are always leaving. I would love for them to get back in on Zach Washington. I know there's been some contact made there. I would be really, really excited for that one if they could get him. Washington is a start and stop. My Astro. I would love to get back in on him. All right, we're going to take a quick second here. Then we got a bunch of your comments next on Locked On Badgers. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Today's episode brought to you by our incredible friends over at Gametime. Gametime is phenomenal. We talk about it all the time because it is the easiest way to get tickets, and especially with what's coming up, the World Cup. Coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. Where were you in 1994? I was in my parents' living room watching the 49ers Chargers Super Bowl. And so that's been a long time, right? It's coming back to North America for the first time since 1994 with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's where Gametime is clutch, giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging those seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, which is phenomenal. Get alerts when great seats open right to your phone. Buy tickets the moment they hit the app, and then it gets emailed to your phone. It puts the power back in your hands. It makes going to the World Cup as realistic as possible. You pull up the app, the layout makes it super simple. Plus, you get what you see is what you're going to pay. That's one of the best things about Gametime. You get pictures of the seats before you sit down. There's no confusion. There's no hunting for fine print. You know the exact seat before you buy. It's phenomenal. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets. Every match, every point, every event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Gametime. Let's get into some of your comments. I always like to do a show where I loop some of the YouTube comments in because it's really the best part of the community is the community, and I probably don't do it enough. Adam asks, how many players are they going to lose in the portal? A lot. But I was talking about this with somebody else, and the reason I put this comment up is somebody was telling me, man, this team is, I think the word he used is cooked. It's cooked because they're going to lose all these guys. And what I tried to tell them, and what the message I'll try to tell everybody in this chat as well, every team loses guys in the portal. Georgia's going to lose guys. Go look at Caleb Downs on Ohio State, who is one of the great players on that great Ohio State defense. He was a portal guy from Georgia, right? Every team is going to lose a handful of guys they don't want to lose. Wisconsin is not unique in that. They aren't. Now that there's layers to this, there's levels to this. The better you play, the more likely you are probably to keep some of your younger guys. The better your relationships are, the more likely you are to keep some of your guys. The deeper your NIL is, the more likely you are to keep some of your guys. So I'm not going to say, and I'm not trying to say it's completely out of Wisconsin's hands, but brace yourself because you're going to lose a couple players you don't want to lose, like every single team in college football. That's just the era we live in, for better or worse, and it's usually somewhere in between. Every team's going to lose guys where their fans are going to put their hands on their head and say, oh, come on, hang on to that dude. I hear you, because I'm going to have the same reaction. I'll probably do it on the show. But there's going to be a lot of that this offseason from a lot of teams, especially with the coaching turnover. Oh, to answer your question, Adam, how many are going to lose? I would say 25, maybe 20. It's going to be a big number. A lad, time management, no sense of urgency late in the fourth. I agree. I put this comment up a lot because when I look back at the Minnesota-Wisconsin game, maybe the biggest thing that frustrates me was just the lack of tempo in the fourth quarter. Like if you want to say, Hunter Simmons is the only way we're going to move the ball today and we can't play any more Carter Smith, I'm like, I don't really agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from. If you want to say we're going to punt from the 33 because we're going to pin them, which they did, and play field position, even though it's late in the game, I'm like, I think you got to go for it there, but I kind of agree. You can't sell me in any way on we're going to play methodical with 6 minutes left down 10 on the road in the second half. I just can't. I still I feel like I woke up screaming in my dreams last night saying, spike the ball, tempo, huddle, don't huddle. I just can't. And were they winning that game anyway? Probably not, but you want to see them give their best punchers try. I mean, that's ultimately as a fan what you want to see wins, but you just want to see them give their best punch, their biggest. And it just felt like in that moment they had given up. And I don't think they did. I don't think the players did, but it's hard to square those two. And I put that comment up there for that reason. That still bugs me. This was a great comment from Tom, 80-year-old lifetime Badger fan here. First of all, that's awesome. Like, thank you for being a lifetime Badger fan, like being in this community forever and still being part of it and still commenting on it. Why are my comments all disappearing? I don't want that to happen. Stop disappearing. So he says, terrible season, sure, but unbelievably difficult schedule. And what coaches would do better with a fourth string quarterback and injured running backs with this schedule? It's a fair point. I mean, Tom is right. This schedule, what we're trying to sift through at the end of this season is a amalgam. Doggone it, Ryan. I mispronounced that word. It's a combination of everything that has gone wrong. It's mixed in with an incredibly tough schedule and incredibly tough injuries. And it just makes it really hard to completely parse out that, your coaches are responsible for this percentage of it because it's just difficult. What would this season have looked like if it was a normal schedule and everybody was healthy at the quarterback spot? A lot of teams, you can talk about injuries happen everywhere. It's football. A lot of teams didn't lose their starting quarterback. Many of them didn't. Look at Minnesota. Look at Illinois. Look at Ohio State. Look at Michigan. Look at most of the teams in the Big Ten didn't lose their starter, right? So when we're talking about down to our third and fourth guy, what would this season have looked like? It's a really fair point, and it makes it really difficult to say I'm completely out on this staff or I'm completely in because there's a lot of variables here that just make it difficult to judge. It's a good point. And I think we're continuing to try to figure that out. Forrest Aguirre asks, if Carter Smith leaves, does Fickell need to go? My answer to that's no, but it's caveated with this staff has to figure out quarterback development. Look at the quarterbacks that this staff has brought in the Fickell era. And I understand that it also dovetails with Phil Longo. You have a new offensive coordinator now, new quarterbacks coach. But ultimately, this is Luke Fickell's ship, right? He's the captain. And the quarterbacks that he has brought in his regime, you have a Nick Evers, who was a 4-star kid, didn't develop. A Braden Locke, who didn't develop. A Tanner Mordecai, not really completely fair, he got hurt, but I would say early season Tanner Mordecai didn't look great. You had a Mabry Mettoyer who came in behind the scenes. He's already gone. You have Carter Smith, who who knows what's going on there. Like, you have to find a quarterback. And it's not just a portal guy. You have to find a portal guy, but then you have to find someone younger to develop. Maybe that's Ryan Hopkins, but this staff hasn't done, obviously, and Captain Obvious here, but they have to figure out the quarterback spot and they have to land somebody. So if Carter Smith leaves, that's just another, in a missing link of quarterbacks in what should be a chain of ascension, right? And you're breaking that link again. Eventually, you got to hit on one of these freshman quarterbacks. Otherwise, it's never going to work. Dominic asks, is Dylan Jones the most underperforming player from this year? I don't think so. In fact, I came away from this season not that worried about Dylan Jones at all. I just don't think the offensive line was very good. It was a really tough schedule. He was getting blasted in the backfield a lot. And if you go look at average yards before contact, I know this is something Justin talks about too. The running backs just didn't have time. So there's several players. I think Austin Brown, given his expectations, was worse than Dylan Jones. Jaden Ballard, I think anybody in that quarterback room. I thought Bronner kind of struggled. I mean, I think there's a list of guys, Tackett Curtis, that you could talk about before Dylan Jones. Just my opinion. I could be wrong. Tyler Streamer, man, good dude, says Jones, Latimer, Wiggins, and Tuca. We'd be okay with that, I think. Even that feels light to me. I don't hate it if they all stay healthy, Tyler, but the running back room, you always lose a guy or two in the running back room. And then, Latimer and Wiggins are true freshmen. Atuka's coming off an injury. Jones is coming off an injury. I think if you have those four and another guy who had a healthy season last year at a lower level and ran for like 800 yards, think of like those four plus a Zach Brown type, if you remember him from the Badgers. You need another veteran in there, in my opinion. You need 5. Dominique says, is Vakos gone? I don't know, but they got to they got to go find a kicker. That is a spot they're going to have to hit on. Let's see. Tyler Streamer, how do you feel about Fitzgerald to Michigan State? I don't like it for them. I think there's a lot. Fitzgerald, to me, has such a reputation, but it doesn't marry up with his win and loss record. So Pat Fitzgerald going to be the Michigan State head coach. And I know people are going to say, well, he was coaching at Northwestern. What could he have done there? He had multiple 1-win seasons, 1 or 2-win seasons. I'd have to go back and look. I am not a Pat Fitzgerald guy. I don't think his reputation pairs up well with his actual win-loss record. I get Michigan State wanting stability, wanting kind of an adult in the room, but I don't know. It feels like a low ceiling hire to me. Jane Toronto, center is huge. They got to get a center. I agree. And here's the part, guys. It's really hard to find a center in the portal. That's one of the tougher positions to find. It's going to cost money. But that has to be a priority. Right after quarterback, I think you got to find a center. Dominique, yeah, what the hell is Michigan State doing? I agree. I am not a Pat Fitzgerald guy. Smo, I mean, Keyshawn is Wisconsin's second highest ranked recruit per 247. Big get tonight. I agree. I think this late in the cycle to go get a guy with his physical speed, I think that's a really nice get. And his offer list is pretty impressive. I think that's a good one. Let's see. I don't get to every comment, and I apologize. I'm trying to see. Aiden Mayer says we need 1 good free safety, 2 offensive line, 2 receivers, 1 quarterback. Safety, definitely. I think you're right on the number with offensive line. I think they need 4 receivers, and I think they need 2 quarterbacks. Oh, Brent, thank you. Caleb Downs from Bama. I said Georgia, but the point remains. But yes, thank you. Please always correct me if I get something wrong. Always correct me. Slim says, if Posa leaves, can McIntosh change his mind and fire Luke? Posa's not going anywhere. At least not this year. Like, he's wired in the right way. Him and Cooper here. Those are 2 guys you don't have to worry about. Well, I'll say this. Nobody is ever for sure in the portal era, but Posa and Cooper are about as close as you can imagine. Let's keep going here. I'm just trying to see if there's any other comments. Smo says we would have been 6-6 with Billy Edwards. I think it's fair to say we would have. Yeah, I mean, and I think the games would have been more competitive too. Even some of the losses, if you still have those losses, I think we're a better team. We'll wrap it up there, guys. On Wisconsin, we got a bunch of content coming up this week. I think we'll have Payne Blastovich from 247 coming on to talk recruiting. I think John McNamara as well. I think a couple kids from the 2026 class. We got hoops coming up this week. There's a lot of stuff. So on Wisconsin, let's go get Colton Joseph. Appreciate all of you for sure. And we'll definitely talk tomorrow.